My home base for most of the year is South Florida. And South Florida is an awesome spot for diving. It has a lot to offer. In my opinion, the best reef dives are in the Boynton Beach or the Jupiter area, and the best wreck dives, especially for technical diving, is in the Pompano and Fort Lauderdale area. And that's what I want to talk about today. I can't list all of the shipwrecks we have here in South Florida, so I selected 6 shipwrecks that are a progression into deeper diving that would be great for somebody coming in from out of town or even someone setting out to take a decompression course. First up is the Okanawa. The Okanawa is only about 70 feet deep. It's a very small shipwreck, which makes it perfect for a shakedown dive or a skills dive for class. There's plenty of fish life and it's definitely an interesting wreck, but this wreck lies solely in the recreational limits. Next up is the Captain Dan. The Captain Dan is deeper. We can get to 100 feet deep. It has a lot more penetration and it's a much bigger wreck. So this is the first wreck that would be in that recreational range where we could do a longer dive and accumulate some decompression if we wanted to instead of 2 dives. Also in that recreational range where we could have recreational divers doing 2 dives and tech divers doing 1 dive on the same boat is the Lady Luck. The Lady Luck is 324 feet long. The top of this shipwreck is at about 80 feet and the sand is in the 130 foot range. We have a ton of penetration opportunities. The engine room is really easy to access and super cool for photography. And this shipwreck is usually covered in Goliath groupers, all kinds of fish, plenty of coral, and really cool artwork that has been placed on this artificial reef, both before she was put down and since she's been sunk. The next 3 shipwrecks are solely in the technical diving range. First up on the list is the Miller Lite. The Miller Lite is about 150 feet deep with 50 feet of relief. She's about 186 feet long. So the holds have all kinds of cool tires and other growth that's gone in them, and there's some unique penetration opportunities in the tower that's collapsed in. The Hydro Atlantic is my personal favorite shipwreck. That's where I go when I'm going diving for fun. The Hydro is really unique because it's a natural shipwreck. So this ship was not put down on purpose, like many of the others, as an artificial reef. And that means there's stuff on it that you wouldn't see on an artificial reef. There's still some tools and other artifacts of when this boat was in service. The Hydro Atlantic is 297 feet long, is in 170 feet of water, and rises up to about 130 feet deep. There's a ton of penetration on this shipwreck, lots of opportunities for photography, and a lot of life. Last on the list, lying in the Normoxic range, is the Lowrance. The Lowrance is 435 feet long, 200 feet-ish to the sand, and has about 70 feet of relief. So the Lowrance is awesome. It's a massive shipwreck sitting completely upright in 200 feet of water. There's tons and tons of opportunities to go inside the wreck and lots of fish and wildlife on the outside. So those are 6 of our really cool tech diving level shipwrecks that we have here in the Pompano area. Some of the things that make diving out here awesome is once we get into the ocean, so once we get out of the inlet, it's usually not more than 30 minutes before we get to our dive site. We're not having to spend all day on the boat just to go do a dive. It's wetsuit season year round. We have a ton of marine life all over these shipwrecks, and because of the currents that we have in the area, we're typically not having to go up and down a line and hang on a line for deco. We get a nice, easy drift deco on our SMBs. Dive shop support in this area is incredible. We've got a lot of dive shops that have helium fills and boosted oxygen. Scrubber, granular scrubber, as well as extenders are easy to get. You can even buy granular scrubber by the pound. For people traveling in that are rebreather divers, you can rent 40 cubic foot or 80 cubic foot pre-filled bailout cylinders. So from a tech diving perspective, there's a ton of support and there's a lot of options. The best time of year for diving in South Florida is definitely the summer, in between June and September. That's when we have the best weather and the best surface conditions in the ocean. The diving is still awesome in the winter, but you'll want to buffer your trip a little bit in case a couple days get weathered out. Worst case scenario, if you can't dive at all during your trip, hop in the car. It's only a couple hours to Cave Country, the North Florida area where we've got all those awesome caves. All that diving is right here in South Florida, so you can go do your 200-foot dive in the morning and have dinner at a Michelin star restaurant if that's your thing. I don't think the best of every kind of diving is here in South Florida, but I do know that we have world-class diving with world-class support, and that's why I'm based here most of the year. So if you're interested in going on some of these dives, give me a holler, and thank you for watching.